Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, welcome back to the Brighton Music Club. We are the offshoot of the Brighton Film Club, which you can find on Instagram and online and in the links down below. This is Underrated Albums, and we are all the way up till episode 9, one away from the end of our season 1, talking about albums which are underrated. It's been really great fun doing these videos and talking to you guys about albums that we here think are underrated. And it's been really interesting to delve back into these records, get your thoughts, get your opinions, and really think about what makes something underrated, the parameters of what that means, because it's such a widespread term. And yeah, we're not trying to rewrite the rule book, just trying to sort of do something a bit fun, something to make you think in these very peculiar times. A little bit of inspiration for you to go away and listen to something a bit new or something that you've written off before, and just get people's brains working and get people thinking and talking and debating, basically. And yeah, the parameters of being underrated are really interesting. So whether it's something that's just been forgotten about over the years that was once praised, or whether it's something that just never did very well at all, something that just people don't talk about, think people write something off, critically it didn't do well, or commercially it didn't do well. Sometimes an album can do all of those things. It can be commercially well received, it can be critically well received as well, and still be underrated today, as we've discussed in some of these albums so far. And what we're going to talk about today is another new record which was actually very, very critically approved, adored by reviewers, but not picked up by the public at all, and that makes it underrated in our eyes. So episode 9, we are talking today about Miss Universe, which is an album from last year by Nilufer Yanya. Now, Nilufer Yanya is from London and has been working for a few years on different songs, had a little bit of success with some singles and really amazing EPs that have come out, and is sort of part of this new breed of jazz-inflected indie artists. She's been linked quite heavily to King Cruel, and they have done some work together in the past. Unlike King Cruel, who is now, or was due to be headlining a couple of shows at Brixton Academy, which obviously sadly been pushed back due to what's going on at the moment, Nilufer Yanya has not met with the same public sort of feedback as Archie Marshall or King Cruel, and we're here to hopefully make a small dent in making that right, and hopefully making a few of you who may have not heard this album or not heard of Nilufer Yanya before go and have a listen, and realise how amazing this piece of work is, and it really should be everywhere. You should be hearing it on soundtracks, you should be hearing it on radio, you should be hearing it in coffee shops, all of that sort of stuff. It is a fantastic piece of work. Now, this was something that was really, as I said, critically adored, Miss Universe, when it came out, but the public just didn't seem to pick up on it at all. She has obviously gained a following, and the venues have got a little bit bigger, but the album didn't chart. None of the singles charted at all, and despite the critical buzz and despite some of the word of mouth, it's just not something which has gone over ground. And it's completely baffling because it's not a difficult record at all. Once again, with this whole series, we're not trying to thrust upon you albums that are really difficult or require loads and loads of listening to get into. This is straight up an amazing pop experience, but just dips into so many different genres. It's so genre agnostic. It just has a bit of everything in there. There's indie, there's rock music, there's soul, there's blues, there's jazz, there's a sort of R&B inflection, a sort of modern, but it's absolutely real. It's organic sounding, and there's definitely something on here for everyone, as that old cliche goes. There's a song at least of Nilufer Yanya's which you'll pick up on and like. It's kind of filled of scratchy, sort of raw guitar, and her sort of otherworldly vocal, which sits atop it. Some of it's done with sort of live instrumentation. Some of it feels a bit more alien because it's done with sort of drum machines and synths as well. But it's all such an amazing listen. It's smoky. It's vintage sounding, it's soulful, it's organic, it sounds classic, which really makes it, I think, stand out in today's landscape, and I think more people should basically go and listen to it. Trying to speculate and playing sort of devil's advocate here on why it didn't do so well, possibly because those EPs were picked up on that she released before this, and the singles were as well, talking songs like Baby Love and the Plant Feed EP as well, which seemed to do quite well on some of the sort of blog sites and buzz sites as well. And she made a really brave decision to not include those songs on the album, which I think is to its credit. It's a really difficult thing when you're a new artist and you've released songs that are really big and you don't want to hurt the flow of an album by doing that. The songs would sit really nicely on the album. I myself saw the track list and initially was disappointed that I didn't see those songs on there because I love those songs so much. But then I sort of realised that this is a different piece of work, this is an evolution, and that was the whole point of this. It's actually sort of disguised as a concept record. Now, again, don't let that put you off. It's not something I personally really enjoy, that sort of concept album thing. I don't know how people turn on or off by that. I don't want to have to think of something as a full piece of work all of the time. Sometimes I want to dip in and out of it. If I want to show someone a song, I don't want to have to explain it to people, most importantly. But that's very, very loose on here. There are a few sort of skits and spoken word bits, which is why the track listing runs so long. Ostensibly, it's a online sort of mental health course of treatment by a fictional company called Way Health. So it's sort of Black Mirror style future online activity. It's an interesting concept, and the songs sort of dip into that mental health landscape and the psychology, which make the songs really interesting, and depth, sort of lyrical subject matter is really, really good as well. But you certainly don't have to listen to it as that concept. You don't have to listen to it all the way through from start to finish. It does better the record if you do that, because the songs directly follow on from the spoken word segments. But you could pick each song out, and each song could stand on its own 2 feet as a single. There's some amazing songs here. She released In Your Head, which was, it sits as track 2, and it's quite a rocky number. And she released the very final track, which is Heavyweight Champion of the World. You may have heard those 2 songs, but the rest of this thing is absolutely stunning. The soulfulness of the vocals, the intricacy of the guitar that she brings into it. Have a listen to a song like Paralysed, or Angels, or Baby Blue, and it's unlike, it's at once something that you've not ever heard before, but really, really familiar as well. It just has that vintage feel to it, where you're like, you've dug it out of an old record crate, but at the same time it's completely fresh, and just sounds so interesting. And I, for one, think that this particular sort of style of sound, that sort of jazziness to it, but mixed with that sort of modern feel, is where sort of indie music, not as a whole, is going, but certainly there's going to be a subsection of indie bands which adopt this sound. And I think, I don't want to make it sort of big call, but I think moving forward we may pick this record out as being an influence on a sort of sound and a generation of artists, amongst other similar bands and artists of this genre. But I think it might be something that gets picked up as that sort of unheard, heralded influence on other things. Also, for those uninitiated, if you've never heard of her before, go and listen to Baby Love and see if you recognise that, first of all. But also, if you are a sort of music fan, classic sound music fan, she does an absolutely incredible cover of Hey by Pixies. So that might be an easy sort of gateway into what Nilufer Yanya's style is and what this sort of record sounds like as well. It's definitely underrated. The critics absolutely adored it. It topped many polls. We ourselves put it 3rd on our albums of 2019 last year. Honestly, it was a real close call. 1, 2 and 3 that we had last year. This could easily have topped the lot. And it was just one of those judgment calls on the day, but take it on a different day, and this could well have been our album of last year. Certainly would feature in an albums of the decade sort of list as well. And as I said, that's something that we will work on and put out there for you guys as well if you're interested. Go and listen to Nilufer Yanya. Go and listen to Miss Universe. It is underrated album number 9. Thanks for listening to me and all of this series so far. Really got some great ideas for new content from you guys, and keep them coming on Instagram and on YouTube as well. As I said, might do a Q&A, so if you've got any questions that you do want to know about myself or the Brighton Film Club or the Brighton Music Club, hit me up and I'll answer those for you on one of these videos. One more episode of this series to go. Thanks for listening. Go and listen to Nilufer Yanya. Goodbye.